You're currently listening to STAGIAIREPODS, Episode 2. Salut à tous. Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Kevin speaking to you from Vancouver, Canada. Hope everyone is well. Today, my friend Hilson will be joining in on discussing thoughts on the book Attached. In the book, the author shares various attachment styles that we all possess: anxious, avoidant, and secure. Enjoy. How about we start by telling each other what our personal attachment styles are?
In this book, it really talks about there's 3 different types of attachment styles, and I am secured and also a bit of anxious.
Why do you think you're secure and anxious, and not just secure?
For anxious-wise, I'm the type of person that always wonders if I am being loved by my partner. I always have these thoughts of making sure that I want to be loved, as well as my partner's mood really affects the way that I do things around her. So I'm very sensitive to that. And I also feel that my partner sometimes might be seeing other people, and I tend to be worried. Sometimes like, am I doing something wrong? Or am I not attractive enough? So that part of anxiousness is part of me.
But only very slightly, right? But most of the time, majority of the time, you are composed and you're okay with the relationship that you're in.
Well, for most of the time, you can say I am a secure person, but there's always a sense of anxiousness within me. For secureness, I want us to be always growing together. We should always find new goals to motivate each other as well. And having a sense of security and this trust that we need to be comfortable in seeing other people, which I'm still not at that level yet.
I see. I get it. Both of us are still, when it comes to romance, we're still in our infancy stages. And I'll get into that a little bit down the road, or a little bit further ahead in this podcast. What my thoughts on why that is the case, and the fact that we didn't really have a male role model figure when we were growing up. I'll tell you more about it later. It's something I heard about the other day when I was listening to a podcast on romance. And let's dive into what the 3 attachment types are. First, starting with anxious. What do you think anxious, when you hear anxious, what do you think about? What sort of characteristics come to mind?
Definitely worrisome. Someone that's always worrying. Someone that's nervous. They might also exaggerate some situations because of even the smallest things. They overreact. Someone
who's very worried and full of anxiety. Right. They fear that something might go wrong, right? I think that describes me quite well. It's a little embarrassing to say, but that's how it is. I'm working on it, and I'm trying to become more secure. And I think I've relaxed a lot over the years, but still very much in the early stages, and I still have a lot to work on. But you mentioned earlier about the law of averages, and that the people you surround yourself with, the environment you put yourself in, affects the personality, right? How you behave and how you treat other people. How do you think someone insecure, avoidant, or anxious can become secure?
When you really think about anxious people, I feel for them, they always think about the things that they did and whether they did it right or wrong. They always think logically about, did I say the right thing? Was I acting in the right way? And sometimes we have to just let go of ourselves and just relax and just naturally do what we do without thinking so much about everything that we do. And for someone that's secured, it's great that you can go back and think back to see what you may did wrong or not. But that's not all the time. For them, they're confident in themselves that they are doing the right thing without needing to go back.
I see. We're talking a lot about anxious here. I think it's because you and I both share that a little more so on my part than your part. We're both a little bit more anxious than avoidant. Originally, I thought I was anxious and avoidant, like a combination of the two. But it turned.
It contradicts each other, though, right? I mean,
not necessarily. Not necessarily. Anxious people are worried when they're in the relationship. Avoidant people are. They still value their own independence, right? Although it seems contradictory, but it's I don't know. It just somehow works as an attachment style. And although I thought I was both anxious and avoidant, it turns out I'm not. I'm actually I'm more anxious, and I'm not as avoidant as I think I am, because how I treat my parents, you know how traditional Asian parents can be very clingy to their children and very controlling. So I always thought that I was avoidant because I valued my independence, and I wouldn't, even listen to my parents' words or answer their phone calls, right? But it turns out when I'm reflecting on myself and my own actions, I don't it doesn't bother me that much that people are seeking after me. I still feel comfortable. So although I want my own space, I don't feel like I'm being trapped in a relationship, whether it's romantic or platonic, or with family. I feel like I'm still comfortable being around people.
So yeah, like breathing room, as well as there's certain things you can't do, but then there's lots of things that you could do around them and feel more comfortable.
Yeah, a more avoidant person would be, I guess, a player type. Usually a businessman. That's ironic because we're both into business, but future us. But the typical businessman who's super wealthy and goes clubbing and uses his money to, attract women. Those type of people, they have a lot of options, right? Mm-hmm. Someone told me before that a man's loyalty is based upon how many options he has. I don't know if that's true, but I definitely I can understand the perspective in those words. And if a man has a lot of options, then he will more likely be going out and, have flings with many women, right? Yeah. But from these past couple of years of working on my romantic life, I realized that I don't want to be in multiple relationships. I'd rather have quality over quantity, basically. I'd rather be with one person who resonates with me a lot rather than, just sleep with a girl just because she's attractive, right? I mean, that's fun for sure. Don't get me wrong. I definitely I feel attraction to girls that are, that I find attractive, right? But that doesn't mean that I will go out of my way for the rest of my life, right? Maybe when I'm young, I will try to explore, maybe, but I've come to realize that I'd rather be with one person or, maybe a select few, a handful of people that I come across, rather than, just have one night stands and stuff, right? Just a few relationships and then settle at some point. Not to say that give up. Settling does not mean giving up. It means that I just want to be with one person for a longer period of time, I guess. How about yourself? What do you think? You told me before that you also value quality over quantity. Is that still how you think today?
If you listen to our last podcast, I talked about how you wanted to have a great quantity of good quality friends. But in the case of a relationship, definitely it's quality over quantity. For me, it's about having that one person, that one woman that you want to be with forever and spend the rest of your life with her, as well as just sharing all the moments, as opposed to sharing it with a lot of different girls. And I feel that for going back to the point where you're talking about one night stand, I feel for those type of people, they're so shallow in that they're so attracted by the outer appearance. That's all that matters. Where without exploring deep within their personality and interests, that's, to me, attraction is about the heart, the interests, and also as a combination with appearance. So that's my take on one night stand. I'm not sure about you. Like, what's your opinion on it?
I see. But just before we move on from that, so we're right now describing characteristics of avoidant type people. And according to the book, actually, avoidant type people, I mean, maybe some are shallow, but a lot of them, according to book at least, avoidant type people, they are constantly looking for the one, the concept of the one, right? So they don't want to just settle with one person. They want to keep looking for people that are more compatible with them. What do you think about that? Does that still make you think that avoidant people are shallow?
If anxious people are always constantly looking for the one, it's kind of like looking for the...
avoiding people.
Avoidant people are always trying to look for the one. For them, it seems that they're trying to always look for the best option possible. And eventually we're going to reach that point where there's no one that you can find that will be better than the person that you have right now. Right? As being shallow, that's very interesting, because I talked about how for those, once you're only attracted to only appearance and you only like them because of appearance and not really about their values on the inside, their personalities, that's what I call people as shallow, right? Like, if you like someone for their money and for their appearance, you're liking the exterior qualities of them, not the interior qualities. And that's how I define someone as shallow.
Okay, so that doesn't mean that all avoidant people are shallow, right?
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay, so I think we talked about avoidant quite a bit right now. How about we dive into what it means to be secure in a relationship? What makes a secure person?
Something that I'm trying to work on would definitely be a secure characteristics that's having the, you can say, confidence and the knowledge and always the consciousness of knowing that you're loved. You don't have to always wonder about it. As a secure person, you have so much trust in your own partner, and that you know that they trust you in whatever you do. So in anxiousness, we talked about worriness a lot. Secure, less about worriness.
Less worriness. Interesting. I just noticed that you have some markers in the book. Can you share a little bit of what you find interesting? What you personally find important that you want to share? For
secure, some of the things that really stand out was encouragement, like providing encouragement and this learning of personal growth goals. That's something that you should always do in a relationship from day one until the day that you guys' relationship will break or forever. And that you have to give them room for privacy as well. You want to help them in a way that they feel that they still have power left and not doing everything for them, right? Allow them to do their own thing without trying to take over the situation, right? Or undermine their confidence or abilities.
You mentioned something quite interesting. So a relationship has essentially two paths, right? You could either end up in a marriage and you live happily forever.
Or strangers again.
Or strangers again, right? So you either stay together or you break apart. So what are your thoughts on how to deal with breakups and how to know when is the right time to, close the deal and put a ring on each other's fingers? When do you think is the right time to make the decision to decide whether to break up or to get married?
Personally, for me, to marry someone, first off, you have to be financially secured of yourself, as well as making sure that the person that you're marrying is the one that you'll love forever. Because as for me, you should only have one girl that you should truly love, and that's it. As for marrying her, you obviously have to be in a relationship where both of you are very comfortable talking a lot of deep secrets, deep thoughts about each other. And it's like sharing the other half of your life with her, like that. And when you feel comfortable in doing that, that's kind of when you want to know she's the one that you want to marry.
So it's not a matter of time. It's a matter of
time. No.
It's a matter of how comfortable you are with yourself and with your significant other.
And as well, like, their thoughts matter the most to you, right? Like, if they aren't willing to share some of their deepest personal thoughts with you, what does that say? Right? You get to think about, like, what could be the reason. You kind of want to know the reason for that.
You have to be aware of red flags, basically. Yeah. What are some red flags? You mentioned one where they're basically hiding secrets from you. Do you think that it's necessary to be 100% open with your significant other?
No, definitely not. There are some things that you can tell your best friends that you don't tell your significant other, and as long as you have like a logical reason for that, that's fine.
Fair enough. So,
because we always need to have a part of ourselves that's only to us, that's only mysterious to us, right?
So what are some other red flags, and what are some not deal breakers, but deal closers? What do you think is a green light for a check mark that says someone is marriage material or someone you want to spend a longer time with?
When you're in a relationship, you see different sides of each other. And when you see different sides of each other, some parts might be really ugly side, like when someone's eating and doesn't have much manners, like maybe a significant other. But most importantly is you accepting their different sides and not being so critical and hateful of it. And that's something that's definitely part of a way that to tell you that, oh, she's the girl I want to marry.
Her mannerisms, her eating mannerisms?
Well, it could be different sides. Like when someone's doing sports or being annoying in a different way, you're still accepting of their sides and not being so hateful of it. That's what I would say.
Okay, so whether you're able to tolerate their habits.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So basically, to be settling with the one, you have to make sure that both parties are able to cooperate with each other without much tension, I guess.
Without much tension and trusting each other.
I see. So it seems like we've been talking about the concept of the one. I just want to ask, because it seems like a somewhat controversial topic, the one, that is. Some people think the one doesn't exist. Some people think that you might have a handful of so-called the ones, and some people think that there is only one true person that you're compatible with. What do you think? What's your opinion on the one?
The one is the one person that you always think is like your ideal type. And when you always think of your ideal type, you always try your best to find her. And if not, find someone else that's similar like her. Right? But if you find someone else that's similar like her, she's not really your ideal type. She's closer to your real ideal type.
Can you rephrase that, please?
So, for example, if you find someone if your ideal type is someone that is a very good cook, she's very independent on you, she's very independent for herself, that she can do everything. But you meet someone that's a very good cook, but she isn't very independent of herself. She depends on you at times for her decision making, I
see. So you're trying to say that just because you think you have an idea, a vision of the one in your mind, there might be someone who comes along into your life that meets more of that criteria, right? So just because you're attracted to someone who, say, is very good at cooking, there might be a lot of people who are good at cooking, but then you might come to realize that you also you value independence, and you meet a girl who is not only a good cook, but is also independent. She doesn't just cling to you and rely on you to do everything, right? She would meet your criteria even further, and she would be your the one, right? You would realize that the one is always evolving.
It's always changing. We always can start off with someone with having high expectations of the one, and gradually over time, you can lower your standards, right? To the people that you surround yourselves with, right? You can measure that, compare. So the one can always be changing, but for someone that you want to be with forever,
it doesn't seem like we are agreeing that there is one person compatible, right? This seems like there's potential to be more than one person. So are you saying that this concept of the one doesn't exist? Or do you believe that there are a handful of people that could be compatible with us?
There are definitely lots of people that can fit different categories of your ideal type. Like, for appearance-wise, maybe you desire someone that has no tattoos at all. But for their personality-wise, they can be very intimate, which you desire. They can be very beautiful inside and outside for their personalities. Very independent, very confident in themselves. But you might also meet someone that has tattoos. There's a girl that has tattoos. She likes different things than you, but then they're very confident in themselves. So there are lots of people that are similar to the one, but they can specifically be the one person because of all the expectations that you have for the one person.
Are you willing to compromise in the future, when you meet a girl who maybe, let's say, she all of the checkboxes are ticked. She's attractive, she's intelligent, she's a good cook, and everything you value, right? Except, let's say there's one thing, one part of her that really turns you off. Let's say she's, I don't know, let's say she's against gay marriage, for example, which
Or she doesn't like you playing games all the time.
yeah, something that ticks you off, right? Are you willing to compromise even though she's like 99% perfect?
I have to assess her reasoning for the things that she doesn't like, and if it makes logical sense to me, yes, I'm willing to accept that. But as for compromising, and for example, if my ideal type hates the gaming side of me, because when I game, I tend to be very competitive, especially when I play board games. I always want to win, no matter what. If she hates that competitive side to me and gives me a logical reasoning that I can understand from why she would hate it, she might think, oh, I'm being too serious, and probably in games I'm being too cold-blooded, not helping her enough win, then okay, I'll think about that and assess whether she's right or not.
So whether it really depends on whether it aligns with your values, right?
Yeah. Definitely. And for everyone, it could be very different, because you can compromise for some people and some people that you can't. Right? For some of your friends, they might be really accepting of your competitive side, then they want to see more of it. But as for some people, they don't. They totally find it annoying, too serious, too uncomfortable, and that's the time you have to think about whether it's worth changing for them.
Interesting. We were talking about the law of averages before, and how people, insecure people, anxious or avoidant, or anxious and avoidant, how they can become secure, right? So the law of averages says that you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself the most, right? So what I'm trying to get at is, an anxious person can become secure if that anxious person surrounds him or herself with secure people, right?
Environment, right? Yeah.
Change your environment. And I think a person becomes anxious or avoidant because of the anxious or avoidant, the insecure environment they grew up in. According to the book, kids develop their attachment style very early on, but an adult can and is able to alter his or her attachment style by changing his environment, right? By surrounding himself with more secure people, and vice versa. If you're a secure person and you are comfortable with being intimate or having your own space, you can hurt yourself by becoming insecure if you hang around too many insecure people, right? So what do you think are good ways to become secure? Because I think everybody, or at least according to the book, everyone should strive to become secure or have a secure relationship.
Becoming more secured person, it takes so much time. It takes a lot of dedication. First off, are you willing to dedicate yourself to be you have to first ask yourself, are you willing to become a secure person by dedicating time? Because it really does. It's like a change of personality, because if you've always been anxious type or avoidant type, if you're anxious, you might be really worried about a lot of things. For a long, long time, you might have had that habit for most of your life. And as for avoidant, you might be very kind of chill and relaxed about being in a relationship. Like, you don't put much effort into it for like a long, long time. And so that's something that you have to dedicate yourself into to becoming more secure. You have to have that growth mindset of working together you guys are like a team, a couple team. And you want to be able to trust. Like I'm going to say this a lot, but trusting each other. Yeah.
Do you think there's a lack of trust in insecure relationships? It kind of sounds like.
Yeah, I definitely do. In an insecure relationship, you constantly wonder about the people that they're seeing. And as for your other partner, if they're anxious as well, they might be wondering the people that you might be seeing, whether you two are doing a good enough job in satisfying each other. It's like that.
It seems like a lot of problems can be avoided just by being open and direct, right? If we were just to tell the other person what is on our mind, whether it's in a romantic relationship or whether it's just with your friends, right? It seems like a lot of our problems are because we hide our motives, right? So if it's that straightforward, why do you think why is it so difficult? Why don't people suck it up? Is it a pride thing? Do you think that it affects hurts someone's ego or pride if they were to be vulnerable?
Yeah, it can. If you want to expose some of your motives to your partner, you might be in fear of the consequences. You don't know what will happen. So you might just think, I'll leave it at that and just let our relationship be like this for now. Because it might happen. The thing that you tell her, it might make your relationship even worse. Right? And as well, for your partner to really trust you, you have to be able to tell them most of the things in your life.
What's your ideal girl?
Wow. Ideal girl, right? Someone that's accepting of all my different personality sides. Not all, sorry, but most of it, because I know there's some parts that she may not be able to tolerate. Someone that's independent in herself. She doesn't need to rely on me all the time for comfort or decision making. She can rely on herself. Someone that is always wanting to constantly evolve, not just being, oh, I'm smart enough. I don't need to be any smarter.
Growing mindset, right? Other than the values, are there any other traits that you would prefer in your ideal girl? Does she have to, say, I don't know, play sports with you, play basketball? I know you like basketball. Do you think that she has to be a basketball player to be your ideal girl, or is it just as long as her values align with you, then she's the one for you?
Along with values, I'll also say interests. Interests could be similar in some. It doesn't have to be all the things that I like that she has to like too, but some of the things that I enjoy, like you just mentioned, like sports, I also like gaming, as well as music. Like some of them she has to enjoy as well and be able to share like experiences together when we're doing those activities. So you can say interests, values, and as well as for different interests, we want to be able to show interest in knowing more about the aspects. So if she really enjoys Marvel and DC, and I'm not really into that, I want to be able to still put the effort into trying to know more about why she particularly enjoys that concept so much. Like that. Even though I may not be genuinely really interested in it, you want to know why the person is interested in it as well.
I see. So it's not so much about having the same interests, but you have to show that you're willing to invest time into participating in the activities that they enjoy.
Yeah, and it's about also moving out of your comfortable circle, right? You can't always be doing things that you enjoy. Sometimes you gotta be doing things that you may not really enjoy, but as well as find it as not as fun. So those are different experiences that you need to go through as well.
Would you think it would be boring if your significant other was a carbon copy of yourself? Like, enjoyed everything you enjoyed, disliked everything you disliked. Let's say you really like pizza and your significant other also likes pizza, specifically your favorite toppings. And let's say you hypothetically disliked marshmallows for whatever reason,
Yeah,
and
they're really sweet. I hate them.
and your significant other also really disliked marshmallows. Would that be a turn on or a turn off if they were identical to you? Or would you like some contrast?
Just like in a relationship, it's like having conflicts. You always need conflicts for a relationship to be successful. A perfect relationship needs to have conflict as well. And so, if there was a girl out there that's like a similar, like completely same copy as me, I wouldn't want to marry her because we have like everything in common that we need to find some things that are very different of us that we want to be able to share more with each other. And that's going to be unique about us, right? You want someone that's different to give you different experiences, right? And knowledge. And so, no, I wouldn't want to marry myself.
Marrying yourself.
Yeah, and just like I mentioned in a relationship, you need conflicts, right? There is no perfect relationship without conflicts.
No perfect relationship without conflicts. Well said.
And what about you? Hey, you asked me what's your ideal.
I was trying to dodge that question. To be honest with you,
And sorry to jump in, but I think the viewers out there haven't mentioned. I talked about appearance as well, because the first thing I talked about was the personality and the values, right? The least important part would be appearance. Yes, appearance matters as well, but compared to those three, values, personality, interest, appearance should be the last. For me, personally, for me.
for you, I was listening to a podcast a couple weeks ago on attraction and compatibility, and one of the speakers was saying that he wasn't willing to compromise. So that's why I asked you earlier whether you would be willing to compromise for the one, right? So the podcast I was listening to, the speaker wasn't willing to compromise at all. So there was actually two options. You could either have multiple relationships going on at once, sort of like a harem, right? You know what a harem is, right?
Yes.
Right? When you have multiple.
Is sort of a harem?
I don't know. No comment on that. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. But let's say you're not able to find the one, right? And let's say you have many interests. Let's keep it simple. Let's say you had 3 different interests. You like cooking, you like basketball, and you like guitar.
Yes.
Right? It's 3 different interests. For the sake of this simple example, you are able to enjoy those interests with 3 different girls, right?
Yeah.
Instead of compromising for one girl, you have 3 different girls, right? Or you have the option of like not compromising at all and just trying to find a girl who enjoys all 3 of those interests: cooking, basketball,
Guitar.
and guitar, right? What do you think about that?
In my opinion, I would try to find a girl that's liking all 3 of those interests. It's going to be very difficult because you can easily find someone that likes certain one thing, but someone that likes all 3 like that's specific to the things that you like as well, that's a harder challenge, and that's a challenge that's worth taking. And when you accomplish that challenge, your feeling of accomplishment will be much greater than the ones in finding 3 different ones so easily. So you always want a challenge like that. So that's something that I want to be able to do in life, and that's what I'm trying to do as well.
That's also what one of the speakers said. He wasn't willing to compromise. There were 2 speakers. on the podcast I was listening to, one speaker was willing to compromise and have sort of a handful of relationships going on at the same time to fill up the void, right? And one person realized that he didn't want to have that and just go through, like you said, go through the challenge because it's worth it at the end of the day to find that one person that resonates with you the most, right? But I'm just letting you know that there is the second option, where you can meet a lot of people or a handful of people that shares those interests with you, just to sort of save some of that pain of being alone and not, finding the ideal girl for you, right? Instead, you have a handful of girls that share different interests with you.
Kevin, is that something that you're trying to do right now as well?
No. I'm just curious just of what you had to say about that. To be honest with you, though, there was a period in my life where I thought, maybe I shouldn't focus on finding one person, which is something I alluded to earlier. Like, I thought that I wanted a lot of girls coming into my life, but I realized that over the past couple of months where I was working on my romantic life, I came to realize that I'm not that sort of person. Nothing wrong with it. I don't know, some people might disagree that there is a problem with, meeting a lot of people at the same time. But it's just something that doesn't resonate with me. I thought that's what I wanted because I thought that it would be too difficult to find that one person, right? But now I'm willing to take on the challenge of finding that one person who resonates with me the most. Even if it takes, I don't know, X number of years, I'm willing to take on that challenge.
And same for me, like, I've always thought that having that one person is so much more special than having all these different types of people to satisfy your needs. There's like that one person, she's great enough that she can do all of these. What 10 people could do. And that's the special part of trying to get her.
Sweet. So you did ask me about what my ideal type of girl is. And I'll be honest with you. It's constantly evolving. But I think the most important thing right now that I can tell you is that she has to be on the same page with me in terms of values, right? If I value growth, she must value growth as well. And if I value family, she must want to obviously start a family with me, right? If I don't want a family and she wants a family, then there's conflict there, right? Not because it's not just a little conflict that you can solve by a discussion. It's a matter of core values, right? This is a deal breaker, right? So values are really important. But I also mentioned to you earlier that attraction, physical appearance is important as well, right? So she definitely has to meet my standards of what attractive is. I mean, beauty is very subjective, right? And my ideal girl I have to be attracted to her. So I don't want to compromise with looks for looks. That being said, I have to meet her standards as well. I have to be willing to work on myself. But like I said, I don't have a fixed vision of what my ideal girl is at the moment. But I can tell you that I have to be attracted to her. And in terms of appearance and in terms of values, our values have to align.
What about like their personalities and their interests, like the personality types? Like, would you want someone that's very intimate with you, someone that that's very organized, right? And they're very punctual, like that. You're also attracted by those different types of traits as well, right?
For sure. If I can't tell you how many times when I had to deal with people who are late, and that it's kind of something that ticks me off, to be honest. So if a girl is punctual, I am instantly attracted to her. Like, you value me as a person to come here on time. That is super attractive, right? Definitely. As in terms of personality and interest, that's constantly changing, constantly evolving. So I'm not quite sure. I can't give you a definite answer yet. I mean, obviously, it's nice to. All I can say is, if I meet someone whose personality is compatible with mine, then I'll be happy. I know I'm giving you very vague answers, and that's maybe because I'm still in the initial stages of, my romantic life. I haven't experienced enough yet, but these vague thoughts are what I can share with you. Maybe I'll give you a follow-up down the road.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing those. So, I mean, for you, how you talked about being punctual. Like, as anybody, if you have an appointment, you want to consider their time that they're putting into it. And so there's been many times where I've set up a meetup with someone, and last minute they say they couldn't go. So, and it could be a genuine reason that they couldn't go, or it could be just an excuse. But for those that really do make excuses, just tell them in the beginning that you can't go. I mean, to initially say yes and then later on to decline because you want to accept them initially. You don't want to feel bad for rejecting them initially. That hurts more if you reject them in the later on stages as opposed to the initial. So please, for those that are, some of you that are doing it, please don't.
I definitely agree with that. We call that flaking. And to be honest with you, my dating coaches and mentors, they tell me that, so these are people who are a lot more experienced than me, and I learn under them because, I want to gain more experiences, right? And they tell me that women are more emotional than guys. I mean, humans in general are very emotional creatures, but women especially are more emotional, and they make decisions more based on their emotions than guys are. Guys are more logical. So if a guy says yes or no, then it means yes or no, right? Yes. But for a girl, a yes means yes at that moment. Yes at that moment, right? She might be attracted to you while you are standing in front of her, or when you are at that moment where you are setting up the date, right? But maybe tomorrow, maybe a couple of days later, whenever she receives your text again, she might not be feeling, attracted to you at that moment, right? And at that moment, she says she might be thinking no, right? So I'm not saying one's right or wrong. That's just how the female mind works. At least according to my mentors. I don't have anything to back it up yet because I'm still very inexperienced. Maybe I'll come up with my own answer down the road. But what do you think about that?
To your point, I feel some boys do it as well. Like, they could be very emotional and saying yes to meet up, and then later on saying no. Yes, it could be that, depending on their mood, that they make up the decisions. But you cannot ever be so dependent for decisions on mood. Like, it could really backfire as well sometimes. Because when you are very dependent on your mood to make decisions, you're not really thinking logically. So in order to really make decisions, you have to have a combination of both, and always. Like, you can't always be too logical. Sometimes, yes, it can work out. We talked about how just like, intuition versus logical thinking, right? How you make decisions based on your feelings as compared to just using logical sense fully like that. And it's about finding the right combination for successful decision making. That's what I would recommend. Yeah.
Let's continue with talking about some mistakes we made in our past relationships, and we'll end off with some words of how we would improve in upcoming relationships. So I'll let you start. Tell me something you did that you're not so happy of in the past relationships you had.
For one, it's always thinking about whether I am loving her the right way, whether people she is seeing besides me, whether they are more attractive and a better suitable boyfriend than me. And that really comes with, I think, insecurities as well, in that the skills that we have, the accomplishments that we have to be proud of them. And we also, to make ourselves better for skill-wise and accomplishment-wise, you have to use that as motivation, that to make yourself more attractive, you have to accomplish those. And so one thing is that in my future relationships, I have to stop worrying about the things that I can't do, but more about the things that I can do, right? And trusting her and letting her trust me that we're going to grow together. It's okay for us to be seeing other people as long as we have trust in each other, and that we'll continue to love each other and we'll continue to grow each other to be more attractive for each other.
Awesome. So I guess I'll tell you a little bit about some mistakes I made in past relationships. So similar to yourself, in the past, I had a lot of insecurities. Even now, I'm still working on overcoming these insecurities. They're a lot better now, but one thing that I particularly struggled with in the past was my neediness, right? I told you before that I'm an anxious attachment style, right? An anxious attachment style means that you're worrisome and you tend to exaggerate and you tend to think about your lackings, and that you feel you're not good enough, right? And you worry whether she will go on and find more suitable mates, right? So that's one thing I had to work on, and I still have to work on, is my neediness, right? So I was very clingy, and I scared many of my past significant others away. Mind you, I've still yet to engage in a long-term relationship. All of my past relationships were short-term, and it's because I scared them away, because I was too needy, right? I remember that one girl, I told her I loved her. And
what's wrong with that?
I told her I loved her within the first week.
Right.
Within the first week. And I guess in her mind, she wasn't ready to accept those words. And to be honest with you, now that I'm a little bit more socially savvy, I realized that the words I love you, they have a lot of pressure bestowed on them. And those are not words you can tell someone right away, right? You wouldn't go to a stranger on the street and tell them you love them, right? You can, but they probably think you're crazy.
You don't
right?
genuinely love them.
Yeah, you don't genuinely love them, right? So those words you can't throw them around randomly like that. And another mistake I had in the past was that I would always, stare at my phone waiting for a text. Like, I would text her and then I would think about it for the next couple of hours. It would be the only thing that's in my mind. So yeah, I know, right? Epitome of neediness. So now I actually have the opposite problem where I don't look at my phone enough. I don't check my text enough because I've learned that I was too fixated on receiving the response that I just hid my phone. I just turn it off most of the time, or I just have it out of sight so that it's not on my mind. Basically, I developed a more busy lifestyle so that I don't have time to be needy. I don't have time to be clingy, right?
You have other priorities in your life that you can now focus on, besides specifically that like relationship, right?
For sure. So I think just by improving my overall lifestyle, just by continuing to develop myself, becoming a more attractive man, I will overcome these insecurities of neediness.
Being too needy and thinking about, oh, is the text coming or not? That could be a big problem because it's always on your mind. And I can tell you are slowly getting out of that stage. And that now you say you had the opposite effect where I'm not checking my phone enough now, right? Because of the other projects that you're working on, right? So
Awesome. So I guess we'll wrap up with that. Hope you enjoyed our little discussion today. If you like what we do and you want to see more, follow us on Instagram at STAGIAIREJourney. Check out STAGIAIREJourney.com and follow Hilson on Instagram at Hilson_1. Have you read Attached? If you would like a copy of the book, you can purchase it on Amazon using our affiliate link in the description. Let us know what your thoughts are and your attachment style as well. Until next time, stay strong. Signing off.